Hello everyone, my name is Infinity and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course the law of attraction. You may already be able to hear it in my voice, but I've been a little under the weather for the last 24 hours, so I wasn't even going to create this video today. But as I was meditating to one of my favorite subliminals that I've created, I felt this shift in my energy from this space of feeling a little overly fixated on how I was feeling in my body with this sickness. And I felt this shift to lightness, to inspiration. And I feel that this shift is very symbolic of what many of us who identify as the divine feminine, who are healing our inner feminine wounding, experience from time to time. This feeling of pushing, of overexerting, of exhausting ourselves, of being in this space of wounding and hurt, and then suddenly feeling these glimpses of healing, a kind of freshness and newness to ourselves, our perception of ourselves, our lives, and our hopes and aspirations for the future. So I just channeled a few messages while I was meditating for some divine feminine out there listening who I truly feel in my heart and soul needs to hear these messages. So if this is you, I feel like you knew it was you because you clicked this video, you felt drawn to it. And if so, I hope this message reaches whoever needs to hear it. And I'm just going to share with you something that I felt coming through my intuition today. When did you start feeling the need to justify the good that comes to you? In 1,000 little ways, 1,000 little moments throughout the day, you work so hard to prove your existence to some imaginary jury. Have you forgotten how to just be? Your toes in the sand, the tide around your ankles. When did you get swept out into the current? Remember. So I don't know who needed to hear that, but that was just one of the first messages that came through. I feel like right now, collectively, many of us are being called to healing this collected, this harbored trauma, both within us on an individual level and also as a collective consciousness, as a society. And when it comes specifically to the wounded feminine, we have been very injured. This hurt is very real. Its effects upon us are not to be ignored, not to be written off, and so often they are. I feel so often for the feminine, what's hard about wounding is many of the effects of the wounds that we experience, we tend to label in a really negative way. We label what we see, how we see these wounds affecting us or other people, without really addressing the root cause, without peering into these things deeper, asking ourselves questions. Why did I react this way? So often we look at the external effects of this wounding and we label it as crazy, as needy, as clingy. We label it in so many different ways, and in doing this, even if this is a judgment we're putting on someone else, it's all a reflection of self-judgment, that self-judgment within, the ways in which we judge ourselves for the ways that we react, when really so many of these reactions, no matter how they may seem to others on the surface, they are coping mechanisms. They are ways in which we have protected ourselves for so long, and for so long we actually needed these coping mechanisms in order to survive. Whether we're talking about some primal biological survival need coming from thousands of years ago, when we were living in a tribal society and we needed to have these reactions in order to simply live, in order to simply survive, or whether we're talking about some kind of childhood coping mechanism, some learned behavior we developed because in order to live, to get our needs met in a broken home or a broken society, we had to act in these ways. So if you're listening to this and this is resonating with you, Before I go any further in the video, I'm really asking you to forgive yourself, to release those judgments upon yourself that may have been, I just saw these binds like oppressing you, binding you to these endless to-do lists you create for yourself, these endless, even sometimes our goals, even soul-centered, authentic goals for ourselves and our lives can sometimes become restraints on our divine feminine energy. We can push ourselves so hard day in and day out, and in doing so, we can sometimes lose touch with our own intuition, which is truly the seat of our power, the source of our power. And I just need you to know that it's safe to trust your own intuition, your own connection to your inner divine, the divine forces guiding you, guiding your life, directing your life. It is safe to trust, even if at some point in the past you didn't perceive it to be safe, it didn't feel safe. It is safe now. So with all of that being said, I really want to dive into some specific signs that I channeled through this meditation of wounded divine feminine energy. A wounded feminine who has lost, or really lost isn't even the best word. I just heard the word sold out, sacrificed. So often we self-sacrifice our own power, our own intuition. And again, it all comes back to our need to survive, our need to live, to make a way for ourselves in whether it was a broken family, a broken society, a broken community. So many of us are being called to finally release these paradigms, these concrete ideas of ourselves, of our lives, of our place, in the place of our feminine elements within relationships, within friendships, within the world. But before I get into that, I just want to share with you, I know many of you may have noticed the different music in this podcast. This music is actually the same music that I use in my Awakened Divine Feminine Subliminal. So this is a meditation that contains unconscious affirmations designed to deeply reprogram your energy. And as we know, the energy and the subconscious mind are directly connected. In fact, it's been said that our energy field is a reflection of the subconscious mind. So whenever we shift these unconscious thoughts, and by unconscious thoughts, I mean those very deeply rooted beliefs about ourselves that either come from past lives, from generational wounding, generational traumas, from our childhood, those beliefs that become so real to us, so part of who we are, essential to our identity within relationships, within the world, that we stop even realizing that these beliefs exist. They become absorbed into what we call the shadow self, into these unconscious areas of the brain. And yet, despite us not being conscious of these negative beliefs, they continue to play out over and over again. Specifically with this Awakened Divine Feminine Subliminal, I am targeting areas of healing when it comes to self-confidence, when it comes to feeling safe and secure within your body, within your feminine power, tapping into your highest levels of intuition, your connection to the divine forces of your life, your connection to effortless manifestation, because when a feminine is in her fully embodied power, or in other words, when she is a fully awakened divine feminine, she is able to manifest effortlessly in all areas of her life. We are meant to receive effortless abundance, not just in terms of money and finances, but an abundance of love, an abundance of confidence, an abundance of security, of adventure, of joy. So this subliminal really targets amplifying that sense of holistic abundance, effortless manifestation in all areas of life. So if that resonates with you, I will leave more information on the Awakened Divine Feminine Subliminal in the pinned comment and the description box of this video. So what are some signs that we have a wounded feminine energy? I would go so far as to say that I think all of us, to some extent, have some kind of feminine wound as we come into adulthood. I know that this might not be true for everyone, but I say probably at least in 99% of cases, and I'm including myself in this, because we are raised in a society that programs us away from our natural state of being. And by natural state, I mean what I just kind of described earlier. This state of reception. So much of what we talk about when it comes to an awakened feminine, a healed feminine, we're talking about our ability to receive, to create not through effort, through overexertion, through action necessarily, but to create through effortlessly allowing ourselves, opening ourselves to receiving the natural flow of everything that is always coming to us. And I know this might sound really unnatural to many of us. I know that when I first came across this concept, it sounded really unnatural to me, because one of my greatest wounds is a divine feminine. And I still do heal this. I'm working on healing this every single day. But is that need to overwork myself, to overexert myself, to step into this overly masculine state and space and energy to try to push things into being. Because in our society, we do see results from action. But as awakened divine feminines, we have to start to understand that the results we see through action alone are minuscule compared to the kinds of abundance we can receive when we open ourselves up to our intuition, to that effortless flow state that we can so easily get in touch with as natural feminines. So, the first sign of a wounded feminine energy that I feel called to talk about in this video is being overly conscientious of our own physical bodies. This is a very literal physical sign of a wounded feminine, and one that we are experiencing more so than ever before in all of humankind. This is because industries play upon, or I should say really prey upon, our overly conscientiousness of our own physical bodies. Our constant feeling of lack mentality when we look at ourselves in the mirror, as we cross-compare ourselves to this ever-changing standard of beauty. When we refuse to accept that we simply are beautiful because of the energy we radiate, because of who we are to the very core of our being. That beauty is based upon energy, that physical magnetism and even attraction are all based in energy, not in the way that we look physically. This is what industries don't really want us to know, because they can gain from causing us to constantly feel insecure about our looks, constantly feel like we are trying to fix ourselves, our bodies in some way in order to meet some kind of ever-changing standard of beauty. And I say that this standard of beauty is unattainable, not because it's unattainable to make some kind of physical change. I always say you should be able to have whatever physical appearance, whatever body you desire to have or to manifest in your life. And I know that many of you know my viewpoints on this, because it seems really paradoxical, because I'm saying on one hand, you should be able to manifest whatever body you want, and this is true. If you want to lose weight, you should be able to do this. If you want to gain weight, you should be able to do this. If you want to change the way you look, anything is possible for you. But I feel that we hand over our power as conscious creators when it comes to physical appearance, because so often when we're trying to meet these standards of beauty, it's not that we're trying to make changes for us because we want to look a certain way, but because we want others to perceive us a certain way. And that is the key difference. It's moving away from caring about how other people perceive your physical body, your looks, your appearance, and choosing to accept your own worthiness of love, of positive attention, of admiration, as you are, to accept yourself as beautiful as a result of your energy. And then from that space, yes, to manifest whatever changes you may want to make, but from that space of self-love, self-acceptance, and truly coming in tune with your own desires for your body, just like in all areas of your life, rather than what someone else desires from you. So the second sign of a wounded feminine energy manifests itself in having difficulty in forming and maintaining female relationships. I find that this so often comes from the pattern of a mother wound, which could be a wound you either personally experienced with your own relationship with your mother in childhood, or it could even be a so-called generational curse or generational trauma, something that you came here to heal and transcend that has been passed down from generation to generation until reaching you. We learn a relationship with other feminines often through our own relationship with our own parents, through our mother or our father. So often as divine feminines who are waking up, we come to realize that so many of our relationships with other feminines, or how we perceive ourselves within feminine society collectively, is based upon unhealthy competition, cross-comparing, jealousy, either us feeling jealous of other females, feeling untrusting of other females, or perceiving that others are jealous of us. There's this back and forth, jealous, envious energy, and we are really pitted against each other. It's not your fault if you feel this way. It's deeply ingrained within us, just like we are programmed to be constantly reaching towards an unattainable standard of beauty. We are constantly pitted against one another as females. And again, this really fuels the beauty industry, makeup, clothes, hair, style, whatever it is. We're pitted against each other in order to fuel these industries, in order to perpetuate this feeling of perpetual unworthiness within ourselves and when it comes to our relationships with other females. The third sign of a wounded feminine energy is self-sacrifice, and as a result, a lack of self-trust. In fact, when I said self-sacrifice, many of you probably looked at that and because of your prior conditioning may have even thought, well, self-sacrifice is a good thing. And this is what I have been healing myself and what I've been working on through the years. Because so many of us are taught, especially as feminines, to constantly overgive in all areas of our life, whether it comes to platonic relationships, romantic partnerships, and usually this begins within our family. We're taught to always be ready to give any part of ourselves to others that is asked of us, and even things that are not asked of us, whether it's our time, whether it's our emotional energy, whether it's our resources, our finances. We aren't taught to set strong boundaries and hold these boundaries to give to ourselves. And this is one of the most powerful ways to begin healing this divine feminine energy, is to truly begin to give to ourselves. I said this in my last reading, and I know it really resonated with a lot of you because someone left a comment about it that got a lot of likes. But I can't remember exactly what I said in that video, but essentially I was talking about specifically the twin flame connection, saying it's not about withdrawing your energy from this other person, but returning your energy to yourself. And that is the thing we have to realize as feminines. So often we vacillate from feeling like we're overgiving, over-sacrificing, having very fluid boundaries. We move from that space to a wounded, hurt space where we tend to lash out from that feeling of pain. And then we get labeled as needy, as clingy, as jealous, whatever it may be, because now we move from overly giving to feeling hurt and then doing the opposite, pushing so hard against the masculine, whether it's within a relationship or society generally. We then push out in our hurt and become fiercely, but in some ways falsely independent. And what I mean by that is we get into an ego space of, I don't need anyone. I don't want anything from anyone. We cut ourselves off from receiving love, from receiving positive attention, from having healthy partnerships, because we move so far in the other direction because we have been so wounded. So the key is not to do either of these things, not to overgive or to push back, but simply to take that energy we're putting on trying to make everyone else happy around us and return it back to ourselves, return our focus to ourselves, to healing ourselves, to cultivating our own intuition, to giving to ourselves, to meeting our own needs. The fourth sign, and this really goes along with everything I've been saying, but is a feeling of neediness. Now, this is obviously just a word. It's a negative label, or most often perceived as negative. But let's just look at the word here for a second, because neediness really just means that we have needs that are being unmet. And in fact, all of us, masculine or feminine energies, are all needy. We are all needy. We all have needs. This has just been a negative label created by society to cause us to feel guilty for the ways in which we lash out when our needs have been unmet for so long that it becomes so painful and so... I just felt myself kind of feeling emotional, and I know some of you are feeling this right in your gut or your heart chakra. But when our needs become unmet for so long, we are in so much pain that we have no choice but to lash out in some way, because we have to get our needs met some way. And again, the key is here to learn to show ourselves our own love, to learn what our needs are and to meet these needs and to set boundaries in the process. The fifth sign of a wounded feminine energy again stems from everything I've spoken about before, which is control issues. And this comes from actually, ironically, a lack of self-trust. Because if we don't trust ourselves, our own ability to be in tune with our own intuition, our own ability to open ourselves to receiving everything that we need whenever we need it, then naturally we're going to try to control when and how everything flows into our life, because we don't trust that we are truly worthy of receiving it just as a result of our energy, of who we are at the core of our soul. So we think that we have to control how it comes to us. And finally, the sixth sign of a wounded feminine energy is overworking or overexhaustion. I already mentioned this earlier as something that I personally still am healing within myself. I tend to step out into this space of pushing into an action mode, trying so hard to take action without first tuning into my own feminine intuition. As divine feminines, we so often forfeit our most beautiful gift, which is our ability to get in touch with energy, to get in touch with the divine, to harness the divine creative forces within ourselves, to effortlessly open ourselves to receiving in all areas of life. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I know this was really just kind of a crash course in some of the very many symptoms of a wounded feminine or a wounded divine feminine energy. Like I said earlier, if you would like to work on shifting this energy within you, on tapping into your own natural intuition, your own ability to effortlessly receive and feel holistic, confidence, success, and authentic connection in all areas of your life, then check out the Awakened Divine Feminine Subliminal I've created. I will leave links to that subliminal in the pinned comment and the description box. I hope you all have a wonderful, magnificent rest of your day. Please do subscribe to this channel if I resonated with you. You can also follow me on Instagram at Magnetize Yourself. I hope to share in all of your energy and meet you all virtually again in the next podcast.